people say, what are you doing in the kitchen?
Yes.
Well, that's what I do, and if people want to find me, that's where they'll find me, because that's where I like to be. But thank you so much for being here, and probably at least twice as many have been here since 1 o'clock. So it's been pretty overwhelming and amazing. When I think about our journey, John and I started our military tax resistance in the Red House over on 20th and Brazil, and that was in 1978, something like that. And we did it because of our children, partially because we wanted them to know that you need to stand up for your values and live your values. And we believe that Jesus told us that we shouldn't kill others. And as a woman, I knew that I couldn't resist the draft. I could volunteer if I wanted to, but they weren't expecting me as a woman. And that my only voice was not to pay my taxes. And so we decided not to pay our taxes, the military portion of our taxes. And we were pretty naive. We're still naive. But we learned along the way, and people would say, we told you so, when they would garnish our savings, our wages, and then put a lien on our house over at 20th and Brazil, and that's how we got here, because they were about to sell the house for non-payment of $2,000 worth of taxes. And most of you don't remember, but Howard Willis, who was one of our first persons to live here, and I've been a good friend at Lincoln Street, went in unbeknownst to us and paid the $2,000 and then came and told us. And I took him down to the IRS and asked to get our money back, and they looked at me and laughed and said, we don't give money, we take money. So then started our journey looking for another place, and we knew that we had about 4 months before this whole thing would start again, because we weren't planning to stop paying our taxes just because this was hard times. And one of the things that people said was that you need to think about your children. This is your children's home. And I said, well, we can make a home wherever we are. That these are just the walls. And that is true. But what we found, that this place that we found, with the help of many of you in the community, we started in January of 1986. We moved in, I believe in March of 86. And we, because you can read John's book and he can tell you more. I won't belabor it. But there were, I think, around 28 people who gave us loans to be able to buy this house. And then we were able to repay those loans as soon as the hunt works and us sold our houses over on 20th and Brazil and 23rd and Brazil. So we dedicated this house to the community. And the war tax resistors and the military vets from Vietnam were a huge part of our beginnings here. We had many meetings for peace and justice works and issues around Nicaragua, and can't even begin to tell you all the ones that we had here. But and then we got engaged in trying to help the church see that LGBTQ people were also loved by God. And I started attending over at MCC, and actually was a member there for 22 years. And it was there, and I started going there because I needed to learn about gay spirituality and their journey with AIDS, because I was part of starting Our House of Portland. And it turned out that many of them decided they wanted to die here. We had over 20 persons with AIDS here with us in their final months and days. Pretty special. Our first person who came here to die, in fact, can't say that we ever really sat down and thought, oh, what should we do? It's kind of like what comes to your door, and if we feel like we can handle it, we do. And a friend of Ann's had been hit by a car in Bend, Oregon, in front of St. Charles Hospital, and she was clinically dead but alive, and was in a nursing home for 10 years in a persistent vegetative state until her children decided, this was in the 80s, that they were ready to let her go. Since then, her grandchildren would go to the nursing home, and others, family continued to be supportive, but there was never any coming back from Grandma. And so she called us and asked us if we were willing to have her here with us. And we said yes, because we're not very good at saying no. And they put her in an ambulance under the guise that she was just coming to visit her daughter. Because in those days, you don't get to say, we're going to let Mama die. And so it was not to be known that what was going to be happening. And so she came here by ambulance, and it turned out that the guy that was driving the ambulance looked at me and said, I know you. So yeah, he said, yeah, you taught me my emergency birth classes. He was an EMT, and a friend of mine and I, taught a lot of EMTs in the 80s about how to, help women give birth in emergency situations. So anyways, he brought her upstairs and put her in bed, and the family were surrounding her, and so we stopped feeding her. And 8 days later, she died peacefully with her family, singing beautiful hymns and loving her to death. She was, and we looked at ourselves and we said, okay, I'm a nurse, John's a pastor, Bruce is a doctor, Ann's a social worker. It sounds like we have a pretty good team. So that's how that part of the journey started. We've also had many grief support groups here over the years. We started with Compassionate Friends, and then Brief Encounters, Parents of Murdered Children, the Suicide Bereavement Support Group, and the fourth-stage cancer support group have all been meeting here for, Brief Encounters, they've been meeting here for 40 years, and the Parents of Murdered Children, those who had the cancer group just started about 15 years ago. So they're a new group. But all of these people have been my teachers, that they have changed my life. They've given me hope. they've helped me see that we can do it. And sometimes we don't know what's down deep inside us to help us do the things we don't think we can do. But they showed me that we can. Another huge part of our ministry has been working with those on the street. We started feeding people 46 years ago at Lincoln Street and then moved to Sunnyside, and we were there for 40 years until they asked us to leave. And then we were on the street and really saw what it was like to be homeless. And for many years they would come in and tell me their stories, but when we got on the street, we lived their stories. It was kind of like being in their bedroom. And these people are dear to my heart. And I will miss them. And I know they will miss me. And that's all about life, that we get to do what we can do, that we get the opportunity to do, and we all get to find that our own way. We don't have to all do the same thing, because that would be pretty boring. And all of you who have lived here, all 150 of you, probably even more, have taught me more about myself than anything. If you were there 40 years ago, I send my apologies. I am nicer than I was then. It's when you get old, you can let a lot of stuff go. And that's a good thing to be learning about forgiveness and loving and just being present to each other and not having to be right. And we just get to keep learning, but we don't get to learn that by ourselves. We have to have other people to help us along the way, to ask the right questions, but not tell us what's right. And we get to figure that one out for ourselves. I'm going to miss all of you. And one of the things that I had said that when we were moving from the red house, we said it wasn't the house, but a woman came to our garage sale last week. She'd never been here before, and she came into the living room, and all of a sudden she was overcome with the power of this room. And she said, "What goes on in here?" And so I told her, I said that there's a lot of grief in these walls, and there's a lot of healing in these walls. And she said, "I can feel it." And so this is about place, that we are saying goodbye to this place, this sacred place, this place that all of you helped to make it what it is. John and I didn't do it by ourselves. None of us do anything by ourselves. We all do it together. And if we think it was just me, we've really missed the mark. That some of us are more control freaks than others. But that can be an advantage sometimes. But it can also be a learning experience. So, John, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm so sorry for you telling the story.
Oh.
Can he have the mic?
Great.
I just, one of the things I think about, and what we learned is that
John, I was just right for
we called ourselves metanoia, and metanoia means repentance. And it was what Jesus talked about at the very beginning of his ministry. We sort of got, there's this kind of popular idea that metanoia or repentance is what you do at the end when you're feeling bad because you made so many mistakes. And Jesus was, he said the good news is metanoia. Good news is repentance. We can reorient our lives right now. And that's what we often did. I know when Pat said, we have to stop paying taxes. I said, yeah, that's right. And that's where you start. You take some kind of a giant step, and then you try to figure out and explain it later. It always works. That's all I have to say.
Amen to that.
Is there anybody else who'd like to offer a